Welcome to The Finisher, a podcast about professional wrestling and all things, well, wrestling. Here are your hosts, Jerry Pickering and Dan Nawrocki. We're live. We're back once again. It's still awkward running it this way. I can't.
Yeah, that's okay. If you actually listen, go back and listen to the podcast, you'll realize that the podcast itself doesn't start until I go, "Welcome back to another episode of The Finisher." We are elbow deep into season 2 here, and another Sunday afternoon for us, where we are live here on the Finisher podcast on Facebook. If you are watching us and you haven't hit that like and subscribe button, well, just do us a favor, hit this, and then you'll know for sure when we're going to go on the live shows, because sometimes things, now that life is starting to return to some semblance of normal, like things happen. So maybe Saturday, maybe Sunday, maybe Friday, maybe Tuesday. We don't know.
Usually Saturday or Sunday.
Usually Saturday or Sunday, but so you want to get on that. If you miss the live show, you want to look us up on YouTube, as this video here, which you're seeing, if you're on the Facebook page, will then be momentarily up on YouTube after we get done with it.
Yes, sure will.
Or you can find us in all your favorite podcast places, led by Spotify and Google Podcasts. Hopefully, I've resubmitted. Maybe we'll be back on iHeartRadio. Maybe we'll finally get onto Apple Podcasts. But Spotify and Google are two big places. You can always catch up with us there as well. Did I forget anything else?
But what you can do, if you can't remember all of that, you can just remember one thing. Go over to thefinisherpodcast.com and you can find all that information right there. All of our social links, all of our podcast links to where you can subscribe, follow, and share.
See how I pretended to forget all the things that we were doing so I could toss that over to you.
Yeah, look at you.
Professional segue.
Professional segue person guy.
Used to be professional.
Our professional days, I think, could be behind us.
Oh, I don't think.
Oh my God, a lot of big things happening.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a week, hasn't it?
Do you want to save the big story?
Yeah, that's why I put it first. Our topic A. It's the big thing, the lead. We want to swing for the fences right now.
You want to go right to the first topic? Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
Paul Heyman out. Fired.
Sort of.
Ish.
He's out of creative. He is no longer the head writer and executive producer of Raw, but he will still stick around on a talent basis to continue his role as Brock Lesnar's advocate, which may or may not be continuing for much longer. God only knows what that contract for him is going to look like going forward.
Yes. So what's it? Who's taking over?
Bruce Pritchard, who had been in charge of SmackDown when I'll be in charge of both shows. As the reports from backstage are that Vince is extremely unhappy with how the direction of Raw has gone, and I guess it's a bit of ratings panic.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's a really difficult time I assume, for most any TV shows, to try and figure out how to gauge like the end of the first quarter and most of the second quarter of the year, because like
pandemic.
Right, with the pandemic, it's such an odd thing, especially with wrestling. A lot of people have had an issue with watching wrestling without a crowd, and things are starting as they're able to bring crowds, at least plants in. Things have gotten a little bit closer to normal.
From what I heard, Florida's allowing crowds and events.
Yeah, that's not going to backfire at all.
No.
They're already seeing increases in viral cases, but whatever.
Yep.
So it's not necessarily, I don't know. It seems like it's not necessarily fair to blame Heyman for everything. The part that worries me is that he's blaming Heyman for his direction or he's taking the show. What Heyman was trying to do with the show, which is make while there's time right now, while they're not worried about selling out buildings. Let's make the new stars now, because there's a lot of guys who in a year are going to be gone that we've leaned on forever.
Yeah.
Rey Mysterio's knees will eventually give out completely.
That's coming. That's coming soon.
$5 says next year, at the end of the year, early next year, Seth Rollins is going to go away for at least 6 months because he's going to get some paternity leave.
Yeah.
So you take another main eventer out.
He's pushing. Go ahead.
I was just saying. No, I was just going to keep listening, guys. Go ahead.
He's pushing like Heyman was pushing guys like Apollo Crews and
Yes.
Andrade, who are in a match for the U.S. Championship Backlash, who now that's getting moved supposedly from the main card to the pre-show because Vince doesn't look highly on these guys who haven't been pushed far, who are now getting a push. Looks like their push could be getting kind of nixed.
Let me look down real quick at the card here. Do you think Vince knows anyone on this card besides Jeff Hardy, Sheamus, and Bobby Lashley, and then Edge and Orton? Do you think he knows 2/3 of this card?
I know he knows McIntyre.
Okay.
That was his golden boy back in the day. Miz, Iconics. He probably has no idea who they are. He probably thinks they're the Bellas.
Yeah, probably.
Doing an accent.
But I'm just looking like it's a good blend of generations here, and what this move says to me, is that it is kind of what we've all assumed. The XFL is dead, so Vince now has 100% of his attention back to his wrestling company, and Vince was and always will be in control as long as, and I know we've argued about this before, as long as Vince is alive, Vince will control the company. There will be no Vince McMahon retirement party. Vince McMahon will not retire. That ain't how Vince is going out.
No, not at all.
He will continue into his 80s to have a hand in this product. And the issue is, back in the early 2000s, it was clear when he had a hand in this product that he was losing touch. Without direct competition to spur him, he was drifting away from what modern fans wanted.
Yeah, and he still is.
And you had the hope that his son-in-law would have enough pull amongst everyone else to try and convince him. But
he's he's following right in Vince's steps.
Well, I mean, he's at least made I mean, if NXT is his baby, which, as everyone has explained that it is, he's at least done a very good job of bringing some talent around in his time at the helm of that brand. Has it been a rousing success where where they have a roster ready to go? I mean, one could argue that if the right people are put in place and given the ball, they can run and lead the company.
Waiting to see how Riddle's going to do when he comes into SmackDown. And when is that going to be?
He's supposed to debut next Friday, or this coming Friday. Now that we're in a different week. But that's it. No words yet on who he's going to face, and no word necessarily on where Kurt Angle is going to fit into this. However, I think if they bring Angle on as a mentor for Matt Riddle that would be the perfect for him.
They wanted to, and for as far as I know, Angle turned it down.
Oh, that's too bad. That's too bad, because I think it would work out well. It worked out perfectly. You could tell a great story with those two. Not that Matt Riddle needs anyone to talk for him, but the rub he would get from Kurt would be great.
Be better. Be great, yeah.
And eventually, when they okay, this is my thing. Eventually, you let them go with some time. Riddle does some things. They eventually get some friction and separate, and then Kurt Angle gets the proper retirement match that he deserved to have at WrestleMania instead of the bullshit that he got doing the job for Baron Corbin. But that's just me.
No, I agree. I agree.
Opinion on how that thing went down.
Baron Corbin
Did
needs
not
to he needs
deserve.
to go.
Well, I would say he needs to get some time, but he didn't deserve, regardless of how good a heel is, he didn't deserve to retire Kurt Angle. That's just me.
No.
That's just me. I know I've been accused of thinking old school about the business.
No. So.
But anyway, so Paul Heyman gone, and no longer in charge. Um, Raw, we know, is going to look different, and apparently it's possible that we're going to start seeing these changes tonight, which one of them would be the United States title being buried on the pre-show.
And we'll see what happens. So here's it. We're going to pick that match. If it's on the pre-show, we may not be covering it live, talking about it live.
No, but we're going to pick it because it was supposed to be and on the main show, and has some excellent possibilities as a match. So we're going to pick the damn thing.
And if you're not watching, some of the things on SmackDown lately just been cracking me up with Otis.
Maybe I caught the much of the Otis thing.
Otis was. So what was the clip this week? It was Otis and Tucker. Tucker was back.
Oh, they reunited Heavy Machinery.
Yeah, Tucker's back.
Nice.
So Tucker was there, and he's got a blindfold on Otis, and he's gonna try to test his senses. So he rings a bell. Yeah, that's a bell, Tucky. That's a bell. He puts out meat, and he knows what it is, and then Mandy Rose gives him a kiss. Tucky, I like the encouragement, but but then so it's Heavy Machinery versus Heavy Machinery and Braun Strowman, your twin, versus Miz and Morrison and Dolph Ziggler.
Okay.
So I don't know if they're going to make that anything on tonight. Who knows? If something like that's going to go on, because they've been having a feud back and forth with them.
Interesting question. I mean, because it's also not a part of the show. That may change. They may slide in one of them infamous bonus matches with no build.
Who knows if Otis is going to come out during the Braun Strowman match? It's kind of being behind Braun, but then screw Braun over because he's got that briefcase. Because freak Braun's mind out,
There's that as well. Here's the reason. There's two main things I don't think they're gonna make that move yet. Three. I think about it. That's kind of one of those things. If you want to save that for a big occasion, like, hey, we're finally back in an arena and you can finally come see us. You'll hold off on that one for a little bit.
Hold off on Otis winning the Universal title,
right? Or maybe Fox wants that back for something for going back to a live arena show at the end of the summer whenever they're allowed to.
It's true.
Two, right now he's way more valuable as the lovable fat guy face than he would be as any type of, unless you're going to turn Strowman back heel. But here's why I don't think they're going to do that, because point three, I also got the impression from Money in the Bank that there is far more for the Fiend to do with Braun Strowman.
Yes.
So that might be, we may be looking at a 2-month build from here with the Fiend.
Yeah, he could show up tonight.
Possibly.
I mean, you have to show up, just have the lights go off and the laugh, and that's how you end Backlash.
That'd be perfect for me.
You don't know what happened, what's going on. You just have that Fiend laugh with the lights going out. Or that guitar slide, the shrieking sounding effect. Yep. Who knows what they'll do. But other things that happen on SmackDown. Hardy, Sheamus, a container of urine.
Yeah, that's a thing.
I texted Dan when this was happening that SmackDown started off. I think it started off with Sheamus coming as a contract signing for Sheamus and Jeff Hardy for their match. Sheamus comes down to the ring with a couple security guards, a scientist-looking guy, people carrying this big black box, and I'm like, what the hell is this? Hardy comes out. Turns out, in the contract, it was stated that Hardy needed to pass a urine test for the match to happen. So Jeff had to go into this box and pee into a container.
I mean, just continuing the needless Uh, well, like we said last week, continuing needless angle where he is once again. We're having the second coming of Last Call Scott Hall. The only difference is Hardy isn't drinking on air, thankfully.
And then they kept showing his mugshots.
Yeah,
They showed all of his mugshots on the screen. I'm like, just twist that knife just a little bit deeper.
like he's already right. Like he's already got some stuff going on. Now here's the other thing, and I was thinking about this, right?
Yeah.
Because you sent me that, and I'm like, oh, for God's sake, why, like, there's so many things that other ways we could do this. Why do we have to go there? You have to get it for Jeff if he's willing to be okay with this at this point in his work as his recovery work. So like, part of me wanted to soften on it, going, well, at least at the very least, Sheamus is doing a really good heel job. It's I don't have to love it, but it's effective. But then it hit me. We've already done this, haven't we? We've
Have
been
we?
here before, haven't we?
Have we?
CM Punk did this to Jeff Hardy about a decade ago, didn't he? When they were in their battle for the world title. CM Punk kept on Jeff Hardy. And apparently Jeff was deeper into it then. Because remember, this was before Victory Road 11, 2011. But didn't CM Punk already do that? And CM Punk already ripped him
and we kind of had
on air for substance abuse.
That's true. And then we kind of had it reversed then with CM Punk and Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho mocking Punk for not drinking.
I would say
a lot of drinking.
Not right. And then they had the thing where Punk pretended to be drunk backstage. Obviously, it was a ruse just to get at Jericho. Those kind of things. But this isn't. But the more I thought about it, this actually is an issue that they like to go back to every so often, whether it's
needed.
Whether it's needed or not, because go all the way back to 1996 when the man that made Jeff Hardy look like a child of substance abuse, Jake Roberts, came back, and Jerry Lawler had his angle, and Lawler even went so far as to knock Roberts out and then poured Jack Daniels down his throat, which you got to give it to Jake at that point in his life too, who would fall even farther before we're getting a chance to recover and redeem himself.
Yeah.
So the more that I think about it, I'm not necessarily taken aback that it's a tasteless angle, that I'm taken aback that Hardy would allow this, but now I'm just like, I've seen this at least 4 times before now. The piss face is a new twist on it, but we've been here and done this, boys.
What I loved was it was Jeff Hardy's line. He goes, you know what they say? It's always better to be pissed off, which you can say.
Yes, you can.
Than pissed on and threw the piss in his face, and they bleeped out pissed on.
No, because you cannot say that.
You can't say that.
That part is you cannot say.
And
that was all.
Go ahead.
So that was always the joke phrase, as as broadcasters, that you'd learn the 7 things you can never say, and then you get into some of the nuances because of the bodily fluids and stuff. You can be pissed off. You just cannot be pissed on.
And what I loved is the crowd, which is all the superstars, the NXT rookies. You got pissed on. So the audio just kept dropping.
Yeah, you can't even say that on Fox.
Just correct me. They had to keep censoring it because the crowd kept chanting, "You got pissed on."
And I'm sure they got quite a talking to after the fact. So they're already 12 hours in of standing around watching all this taping, and now they're getting yelled at for their chants because they're trying to amuse themselves.
Yes, exactly. But I thought, I don't know how it's going to go. I figured Friday it was going to go because Sheamus got the best over on Jeff Hardy last week. So I'm like, okay, Hardy's going to get, over on Sheamus this week. It's going to be the blow off on Sunday. Boom, done. This whole stupid angle. Mm-hmm. From what I've seen, it's kind of back and forth.
Yeah, it's back and forth. They've gone, Sheamus has got the best of him, once or twice in the match. It makes sense. This is the blow off. And now that they have an Intercontinental Champion, there's something for Jeff to do after the fact. Which, by the way, isn't on the card. I'm not upset about that. It happened. Oh, by the way, AJ Styles won the tournament. So
And that
the
was
guy
that was
that
what I was getting to next.
the guy that we all expected to win
One.
won.
Yeah.
So yeah, he technically won the belt Friday. Not mad. He's not defending it on Sunday. No chance to put up any challenger. Hardy was destined for that for a run with that belt again anyway. So maybe at the very least we get some decent matches out of Hardy and Styles. I don't know what the Sheamus is going to do, but well they'll find something for him to do.
Sheamus and Riddle.
Maybe.
So yeah, I was gonna mention that about Hardy or AJ Styles taking that. What was the other one here? Let's see. So one thing that really pissed off Sheamus is the drug test that they were doing. The alcohol test came back negative. So that means he has to have the match. So he got pissed off. And then just rubbed his face, which then he rubbed more piss all over his face. Which I'm like, you mean apple juice?
Right.
But good acting.
Hey, well, I mean, who's gonna say yeah? Go ahead, yeah, piss the cup and throw it in my face. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I'm good with that. I'm good. Thanks. But so going over from that NXT, I guess we had some issues backstage.
Well, we had an issue backstage about a week ago, right before In Your House started, and
Shawn Michaels got in a fight with someone.
Well, Shawn Michaels got into a rather heated argument, and it's not the argument you would expect Shawn Michaels to get into, and that's why the only reason I pulled that out because we're getting a little political. I didn't necessarily want to make that a focus of the show again, but he got into an argument with an unnamed producer. The name of the person that he was arguing with has not come out over the recent protests and the Black Lives Matter movement reigniting. And the reason he did, from what I understand, is that this producer couldn't figure out why this was going on because of how everyone how equal things are in the business. And the irony that Shawn Michaels stood up and said, "Are you kidding me?" and took that much offense to it, to equality in the business. When a generation of people would go, pot kettle black, what the hell, Shawn? But at the same time, you got to applaud Shawn for standing up in this. He at least recognizes that the company he works for has had a less than stellar reputation in the past when it comes to dealing with workers from workers from minority background and racial issues.
Yeah.
And it's not been, I mean, go back in the history of wrestling, it's not been a racially sensitive business from the get-go.
Yes, that is correct.
So I would love to know the name of the guy, of the producer that he went off on, but that's being kept pretty hush-hush. But I will also applaud Shawn for standing up in that one. And again, which is when I said that to you, I go, would this be the guy you'd pick to stand up and make that and have an argument right before a major event?
I don't see. I mean, kudos to Shawn for standing up for that. You're talking, people not getting like racial. So like Rey Mysterio, him getting the bump as many times as he did was also shocking, according because they focus more on the white male, the bodybuilder looking kind of guy.
Well, and also let's not kid ourselves. And I think it's kind of one of those things we all understand that Rey Mysterio is a world champion in that company because his best friend died.
That is true.
Like,
that is true.
That's why they gave Mysterio the belt at WrestleMania, is because of Eddie's passing, and he may have never gotten to that level, even though he deserved it, even though he deserved to be a serious main eventer. Probably back in the days with WCW, but I mean, we can argue about that later.
Yeah.
So it's not a company that has a whole lot of ground to stand on when it comes to issues of race.
No, not at all. Speaking of Rey Mysterio, there was an interview of him revealing who he preferred for his son's first opponent, who he preferred it would be. Like some ideas. I said it would work well with Andrade or Angel Garza would be a good opponents, or even Cesaro for his son's first match.
Maybe.
He also poked fun at the fact that his son is significantly taller and heavier than him, saying Dominic is 6'2", 195 pounds, and still to this day I tell my wife I'd love to DNA him because I believe he's not my son. And he laughs.
You know what the worst part is? Because I just watched some stuff review of that. Speaking of, if you actually want to go, let's unretcon some stuff. If you remember following the whole story, there's a very good reason that he could possibly be 6'2" and 195 and not. And be curious that he's not Ray's son, because storyline he's Eddie's son.
He could be Eddie's son.
And that actually, I take it back. Up until one specific point, it was an amazing ladder match, and then where the fuck was Vicky? So we SummerSlam 2005. If you go back now and watch
was that the Dominic on a pole match?
That was the ladder match for custody of Dominic.
Yeah.
If you go back and watch that event now, obviously that is completely edited out of the network, because you see like the spot itself was completely off topic, but what the hell. The spot
we're
itself,
talking about Eddie, or we're talking about Ray.
Eddie takes a very long time to set the ladder up in the middle of the ring and then deliberately set it up on top of Ray, like pin Ray underneath the other side, and then really slowly and deliberately climbs up that ladder and reaches for the case, then has to climb up again, and then he's up there with the carabiner, and for whatever reason he can't get the thing off the carabiner, and somehow communicated to Ray to start trying to push the ladder off him, because Vicky Guerrero had missed her cue. She was supposed to come out and stop Eddie right then and there when he clearly should have won that match. So then he finally tosses off Eddie, which results in a ridiculous bump that at that point he pulls the ladder out from underneath Eddie, who's hanging from the briefcase, and looks like from the fall he took, he could have snapped his leg into. Oof. And in the original, on the live feed, you see him pounding on the mat, screaming loud enough to be heard on the mics, where the fuck was Vicky? If you go back and watch SummerSlam now, he falls. There's a very obvious cut, because all of a sudden he's on the other side of the ring.
Oh, come on. Just leave it in.
That whole bit out.
Just leave it in there. Come on.
So.
So like I was saying, Ray says, it looks like the future could be bright to the heir of the 619.
You know, and actually, like I said, they have an opportunity here to do something really good.
Perfect timing.
It's perfect timing, tell a great story, and allow Ray, a guy who has done just about everything in the business, to A, go out in a very, very traditional lucha way, and B, go out on his terms.
Exactly.
So I think the appropriate thing to do here is for him to hold on when they feel Dominic's ready to become an active competitor. That's when Ray actually retires and bestows his mask upon his son.
Here's what I can see happening, is I can see that coming pretty soon. And not the fact that Ray retiring and passing on the mask, the fact that he could be competing soon as like him and Ray together against Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy.
And you could, again,
that could all fold into place Monday when Ray's supposed to be back and Dominic is coming with him.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I don't know if they want to say he's ready for that stage right now. But you said, the guy he should first work with. I'm like, the guy he should first work with, would be some jobber on like NXT, or
yeah. But I think they may go past that just because it's Ray's kid.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, it's
mean,
is
he's already gave Brock Lesnar a 619 and a frog splash.
That's true. But that's not but I say that with hesitation. That's not necessarily a knock on Dominic. We just don't know where he's at.
Yeah.
Obviously, if Rey Mysterio is your dad, you've probably been in the ring and worked out with him long before the idea of bringing him up to the WWE has ever been thought of. I have a feeling he probably had a ring in his backyard growing up as a kid. Probably.
Most likely.
When your dad's a world famous professional wrestler, you probably had that kind of equipment on hand at the house. Just saying.
I wouldn't put it past him at all.
So now that'd be interesting. That'd be interesting to see, and also another possible lucha tradition. We could see, Rey Mysterio and El Hijo de Rey Mysterio. Although weirdly enough, there've already been 2 other El Hijo de Rey Mysterios. But regardless, they could actually do that.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go all Mike today on you for a second.
I was letting you go. Just letting you do your thing. Stop it. So I guess WWE's already canceled a tournament that was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like they were going to do a Queen of the Ring.
Well, they had been. I mean, essentially, they've been getting pestered for the last 2 years. Like, when are you going to do another Mae Young Classic? And the idea over the summer was to, instead of bringing back the King of the Ring, doing the Queen of the Ring, which I thought would have been an awesome idea, especially if that ended at the end of the summer with another Evolution type pay-per-view where you held the tournament on a women's only show. There's more than enough. There would be more than enough talent. Ideally, Charlotte would probably wrestle 6 times and win the tournament, and a belt with it too. Because
we're on our way for another Charlotte push, so
it's WW Charlotte. But unfortunately, because of the pandemic, that never came through. Let's hope this is just being shelved instead of trashed, so that down the line,
it can happen.
Right, either later this year, we get to the winter, or next year, we actually can see a Queen of the Ring, because I think it'd be a great thing to do. And you could do it like the Mae Young Classic, where you bring in this independent talent and have them work to make this a much bigger event.
True. I mean, you could combine it with the Mae Young talent, the Mae Young Classic.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could essentially.
So if you've made it through these matches, you're in it for this.
Or you just make it this massive thing like the Mae Young Classic was, where it was like 32 participants, and you could easily do that. Or you do a Mae Young Classic, or you follow the Drake Maverick approach. You do a Mae Young Classic, and the winner's guaranteed a contract.
There you go. That works. So do we want to do our predictions, or do you want to do top 5?
Because apparently this will be an extremely abbreviated top 5, I may as well, let's go ahead and get that out of the way, and then we can finish up with our predictions.
Are you watching the stream at all?
Yes. Why?
All right. So are you ready for the top 5?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. You do realize the stream's on a delay.
I know.
So I'm not going to see whatever you do. I will hear it long before I see it.
You're not going to see it. You're not going to hear it, I mean.
Well, then.
All right. Time for our top 5. Top 5. So our top 5 indie and Japanese matches.
It's independent and or Japanese matches, and you asked me about it. I'm kind of like open it wide open, like, yeah, whatever would be not the big company at the time. And there we go. We're Sports Center now.
I described an image. Is that what it was from?
I don't know. That's what it looks like to me. That's very cool. A professional would edit this out of the actual podcast. We'll see whether or not that happens. So that was what I pulled. David, yeah, that's why I paused. Indie or Japanese matches. And you said right after the show, you're like, I'm going to have to do some work. I'll have to do some watching.
I
I
have
don't
no
know for
time.
sure what this whole thing is. I got nothing. And then it turned out to be a hell of a week for you. You had some busy ass shit going on, didn't you?
Yeah, it was in next week. So I didn't
You was
I didn't get to do it.
you was all over the place. So Friday night, I went ahead and thought about this and put some stuff together because when I gave up on wrestling in like 2008, what I really did was give up on the WWE and went looking for other things.
Which is a lot of people are doing that right now.
Yeah, and I mean the unfortunate timing about that now is that all these smaller companies aren't working because they don't have the resources or they didn't buy off the state governments to let them run shows. So they haven't been able to produce anything new, unfortunately. So it's all older content. So let me give you a bit of a guide to find some stuff. If you haven't gotten a chance to dive into the indies and the smaller companies, I've got some stuff. I'll have this lined up hopefully before hopefully before Backlash tonight on our blog at the finisher. God bless it, at thefinisherpodcast.com. And at least some links to videos or some highlights or something. So let me go ahead and go through with my top 5 indie and Japan matches. I cut myself off. I have no honorable mentions either.
No honorable mentions.
No honorable mentions. I especially didn't go back after finding out I was doing this solo, so I didn't bother anything to it. So I think I have an interesting blend of companies. So number 5, or do you want to go ahead and introduce my numbers for me?
All right, let's go. Dan, what is your number 5 indie Japan wrestling matches?
Thank you. I start out with a bit of a spectacle. The Torneo Cibernetico 2 from Chikara, held back on October 22nd, 2005. This, like I said, this thing is a spectacle as much as it is a great wrestling match. A Cibernetico here, it's a 16-man elimination match, 2 teams of 8, right? And you're constantly tagging in and out, but as you're tagging in and out, you're also tagging in and out in a batting order. So like if you just look at it, it looks like a traditional tag match. There's 2 guys in the ring, 1 guy on each corner post. As they tag in, the guy who was wrestling gets out, goes to the back of the line on the lineup of guys um, on the outside on the apron, and the next guy hops up onto the corner. It's kind of ridiculous, but an interesting twist on your like a Survivor Series match as a Cibernetico paired way down. So, like this was the second one. The Cibernetico became a yearly tradition for Chikara, but there's a ridiculous amount of talent in this match specifically. Chris Hero, Cassius Ono, up until recently known, Claudio Castagnoli, not bad, Cesaro, um, Eddie Kingston. If you know nothing about Eddie Kingston, I would YouTube Eddie Kingston, and the indie legend Mike Quackenbush headline. Second, this is the longest match in that promotion's history at an hour and 44 minutes.
That's a long match.
Ready for this? The first elimination doesn't occur until the 45-minute mark.
Wow.
You're essentially watching an entire card in one match. And like I said, it really doesn't drag as much as you'd think as a nearly 2-hour-long match would. So that was rather interesting.
All right.
That's my number 5. I believe Chikara's video streaming service is still up, and you can probably find that match there. I don't think I'll be able to provide that as in a video link.
Okay. Your number 4.
Number 4. All right. So if you enjoyed their match at NXT TakeOver Portland back in February, you've got to seek out my number 4 match, Donovan Dijak versus Keith Lee, September 3rd, 2017, at the Battle of Los Angeles 17 for Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. Yeah. That the matches they've been having in NXT were in no way near the first time they've met in the ring. and it's a match where it's kind of separated into two parts. As the beginning of the match, neither man can hit anything, as both guys are showing off their speed and agility. And if you know Keith Lee, it's always impressive to see him move in the
Yeah.
ring. And then the big guns start coming out, and you have just these two incredible heavyweights just throwing everything they can at each other. Oh yeah, and Keith Lee deadlifts Donovan from a seated position at one point and gets back to his feet. Absolutely ridiculous stuff. Oh, there's dives, there's all sorts of power moves. It's a spot fest, but it's a lot of fun.
All right, now I have to go find that one, or I'm gonna watch that once you post it.
Yeah, I found a highlight video, so that will definitely be. Yeah, it's well worth the 6 minutes for the highlights, let alone the actual match. If you could find that particular card,
I'll definitely have to go watch that. That's your number 4?
that's my number 4.
Your number 3.
My number 3 is actually, unfortunately, the only match I have here from Japan proper. And let me see if I can get the entire billing of this match out here, and you'll understand why while I get it. This was from May 5th, 1996. It was from FMW's 7th anniversary card. You know, those initials, you know what's coming next. It was a Caribbean barbed wire barricade spider net glass death match for the IWA King of the Deathmatch Championship. Say that 5 times fast. Cactus Jack versus Wing Kanemaru. This is on this list because it's one of those that you enjoy for all the wrong reasons. um, this match
I'm watching that.
This match specifically was my first real exposure to death matches from Japan. Like the actual, not the filter we got. We would later get them through in like retrospectives here in the U.S. And they are, as you can imagine, just from the name alone, on a whole different level than anything we bill as a death match or lights out or non-sanctioned here in the U.S. I mean, it's kind of the car crash effect. You know, you shouldn't stare, but you cannot absolutely look away.
You can't look away.
Nope. Obviously, this one is for the faint of heart, as it is a sloppy, brutal, in more than ways than one, a brutal affair that you'd imagine from all the fun stuff in the title. But it's also not as over the top goofy as some FMW matches would be, which is hard to believe. But they also like the exploding ring in the middle of an electrified pool, which did happen.
Okay.
And Terry Funk was in it. Or a wild, like 30-minute brawl between 4 fat guys in a public bathhouse. Happened twice. Yes, as a matter of fact, there was an attempted drowning in the middle of that match as well.
All right.
So yeah, wrestling in Japan's a little weird, or at least it was in the late 90s and early 2000s in the garbage period.
All right, you're number 2.
Let's redeem a little bit about that, and at least Japanese workers will bring it stateside. And I go to a 6-man tag from the first Supercard of Honor, March 31st, 2006, Ring of Honor in Chicago, Illinois, when Shima, Masato Tanaka, and Naruki Doi took on Dragon Kid, Genki Horiguchi, and Ryo Sato.
Did you say
Saito.
doink?
What?
Did you say doink?
Doi.
Doi, okay.
Doi. And then to say anything about Matt Bourne here. So this one actually feels like an extension of the 6-man match that happened at ECW's Barely Legal back in '97. Excuse me. That introduced a lot of people to a Japanese style of cruiserweight action. And then this match displayed how far that style had come in the ensuing decade or so. I actually only saw this one because I got Supercard of Honor in a random DVD grab bag and really wasn't a Ring of Honor guy at the time. But this is one of the things that attracted me to the company. It opened my eyes with the high flying action and ridiculous pacing. It's a nearly 20-minute match and it goes by like that. There's a ton of heart stopping near falls. And in the middle of all that, some character development for new American fans, as these 6 guys were both part of other factions over in Dragon Gate that had long been feuding. So they kind of busted out their stuff to actually develop themselves in the middle of this match for American fans who had never seen them.
Cool.
Well worth seeking out.
And you said you had no honorable mentions?
No honorable mentions this time. Nope.
So you're number one. Top.
Number one
in your
favorite
top 5 favorite indie
indie,
Japanese matches.
number one favorite indie match, and there should be no surprise here. We go back to Ring of Honor, just a little bit farther back, August 26th, 2004, for the Ring of Honor World Championship, or excuse me, the Ring of Honor Championship. It was not a world title then. CM Punk, Samoa Joe 2. Long before the pipe bombs. Long before the walkouts. Long before the Nation of Violence. These two men squared off in a trilogy of matches in Ring of Honor over the belt, with this second one becoming the greatest wrestling match you've never seen of all time. I'm sure many fans will skip this when they see that it went to a 60-minute Broadway, intimidated by an hour-long match, but it never feels like you're sitting through an hour-long match. It's a hold-for-hold contrast of styles, full of brilliant psychology, brutal action, hope spots, near falls, everything that a wrestling match should be in this one bout. Just like you find it, watch it, and then find the first match from a couple of months before. It's probably like second best in the trilogy, but and even more underrated than this one. But most importantly, Punk Joe 2. Go watch it. If you like wrestling, watch it. I'd put this up against anything we're going to see tonight as the greatest wrestling match of all time.
All right. Are you sure it's not going to be Edge and Orton? I mean, they're pretty sure that it's.
They're pretty sure. Look, because the WWE is pretty sure that it's going to be, is why I'm pretty sure it's not going to be. Because the WWE doesn't necessarily know what a good wrestling match is anymore.
Are you sure?
Very.
Okay.
Very much so. I've seen a lot of wrestling.
You've seen a lot of wrestling?
I've seen a lot of wrestling. Actual wrestling. Not sports entertainment. Professional wrestling.
So, all right. So we're gonna get into our predictions. No, we have to draw a top 5.
Yeah, let's do this. I'm assuming it's because we'll draw something that you're actually going to do. So,
hopefully,
see what this is. See if I don't know if this is any more accessible or not for either of us. Wish I could remember what the hell this was. Yeah, you won't. I don't think you have an excuse on this one. So next week we'll go over the 5 worst Hell in a Cell matches.
All right.
I know what number 1's gonna be.
I don't know.
Yeah, you do.
I do.
Think about it for 2 seconds, and then you will.
Well, give me just 1 second. Give us a second. Hang on. All right. Let's go. Forget it. Okay. I was trying to do something, but it's not working. I should have had it ready, but I'm stupid. All right, let's do our predictions.
Editor note: 48 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yeah. Go ahead and cut that out.
That was just for me.
Go ahead and cut that out. I was trying to find a theme for our main event on here. I was trying to find the theme to play, but I couldn't do it. I should have done it earlier. All right, so our first match, Apollo Crews, who is your current United States champion, versus Andrade, the former United States champion. For the U.S. Championship belt.
Yes, on the pre-show, which like 6 people will see.
Let's hope it's not.
Well, yeah, but we also know that yeah. Anyway, the point is, I can't do 2 things at once. Look, so my picks didn't change this time from doing them Friday night. If Vince doesn't like either of these guys and doesn't understand why either of them have any place in his company, I don't think he's going to make any moves right now. So barring a draw where they fight to a draw and he vacates the belt, I think Apollo Crews will retain it. There's no point in taking it from him two weeks after he gets it, only to go back into a program that apparently Vince wasn't high on to begin with.
And I agree with you on that right there. I'm picking Apollo Crews to win the match. The next one is Bayley and Sasha Banks. It's the women's tag team title match. Bayley and Sasha versus Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross versus the Iconics.
So yep, our championship pairing against the only other two tag teams in the women's division.
And I don't think either that they're going to take them off of Bayley and Sasha Banks since they just got them.
And just like the NXT women's title match, I'm going to agree with you with the caveat, which is so it's on tape, that I could also see them.
I can see them giving it to the Iconics.
I could see them giving to the Iconics to try and start to split this up, and then also maybe we finally see that split between Bayley and Sasha Banks. Although we've been talking about that probably as long as we've been doing the damn show about this angle that they keep teasing and keep teasing but never pay off on. And I don't see a reason to do it now necessarily. There's no point in switching the belts back to Bliss and Cross right now because it's been, what, a week, 2 weeks?
Yeah, not even that long.
If they move it all, they go to the Iconics, but I don't see them ready to do anything with that yet. So, yes, Sasha and Bayley.
All right, so we both have Sasha and Bayley retaining that one. The next match we have is Jeff Hardy versus Sheamus.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on that one?
Another one of those that I made a pick, and I'm not going to change it because I know Vince has a hard on to get Jeff Hardy back into a main event position, and I think Sheamus is just being used to get him back over since he re-debuted with the company. So Jeff Hardy, because you can't run an angle like you just did and then not have
him win it.
Not have him win it.
Well, here's the deal. I may be holding on to this title a little bit longer, possibly, because we both have Jeff Hardy on that one.
All right.
Now we have the Universal Championship. Is it for the title?
Yep. Actually, if you're reading the rundown or the card off the rundown, let me go ahead and interrupt you because I forgot the title match in there. Asuka defending the Raw Women's Championship against Nia Jax.
Okay, we'll go on that one. We'll start with that. So yep. Asuka versus Nia Jax.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and say Asuka keeps it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree. If she wasn't facing Facebreaker, I would say there's a possibility that Charlotte cost her the belt here, but I also would. I've been very wrong on when it comes to women's wrestling bookings this past couple of months, but I think they would have a problem now putting the belt on Nia Jax, especially after
a lot of the allegations
allegations, especially after the Kairi Sane incident. So
yeah,
they booked their way into that, and then she's probably going to cool her jets for a little while after tonight. Now, Universal title. Sorry.
So Universal title it's Braun Strowman versus The Miz and Morrison.
Yep. Not a triple threat. This is a handicap match.
And I'm going Braun Strowman.
Yeah, I don't like. There's no doubt. Like this right here. Like I said, like as we talked about earlier, feels more like a holdover to give the angle with Bray Wyatt and the Fiend a chance to calm down.
Yep.
Now they do this. Maybe they have a return match at what would be July Extreme Rule. Like I don't have they announced the next. Like it would be Extreme Rules, right? Unless I miss my naming conventions.
Hang on, I'm getting it for you.
We do our research here.
I know.
As you clearly can tell.
Yes, July will be Extreme Rules, followed by
the
Um,
SummerSlam.
NXT Takeover Boston and SummerSlam. I think it will be Boston probably. Maybe, who knows? They could be back in by August 22nd.
Doubtful. Doubtful. I mean, you're going to get the mayor to change his mind. But anyway, so there's 2 months worth that they can do with it. They could continue this for one more match. Have these two do an Extreme Rules match with Strowman, and then, or just leave those two, let them go those 2 months to build to a SummerSlam match with the Fiend. I don't see that belt moving either, especially with these weird handicap rules.
No.
At some point, the friction will start with Miz and Morrison. They both try to take advantage of the 2-on-1. They'll fight against each other. Braun will wipe the floor with them.
Exactly. Next match is the Raw or the WWE title.
Yeah.
Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley. I'm sticking with McIntyre.
Yeah, I thought heavily about this. That there was a possibility that wacky things could happen.
I don't think they're going to do it.
But I think they've right now and have too much invested in Drew McIntyre.
They do, but I also think, and this is nothing against anything,
I think I know what you're about to say, but go ahead.
Could they put it on him just because the whole Black Lives Matter and the whole movement right now, just as a solidarity thing? I mean, you saw the New Day when they came out on was it SmackDown? Was it SmackDown?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's on SmackDown. Come out to their normal thing. They get in the ring. As soon as they get in the ring, they take a knee and put the fist in the air. Could they give it to Bobby Lashley just to play that card, or won't they? I'm still sticking with Drew McIntyre because I still think he's got a long way to run with the belt. But I could also see them doing that.
First and foremost, too obvious. Way too obvious.
But I like how you knew where I was going with that.
Yeah, I assumed that was the argument that was going to be made. Because I've gone back and forth. Would they actually do that, especially with Vince back in control, knowing how much he loved Bobby Lashley at one point?
K-Vic.
I do not think so.
No?
I
So we're sticking with Bobby Lashley too?
With
Drew McIntyre?
Yeah, but let's put it this way. I would not be surprised if that made that move.
Exactly.
Way too obvious, and
we'll both take the L if they go ahead and put it on Bobby Lashley. But note here that we are also predicting that could be something that's going to happen.
Well, I mean, yeah, we'll take the L. Glad they take the L just to be able to watch Twitter afterwards as they get bombarded in the backlash. Oh, you only gave it to him not because he deserved it, but because he's black at this point in history, which is exactly why they would have given it to him. Like
exactly,
they wouldn't have given it to him otherwise, probably. Even when they did try to make him a champion and force him down everyone's throat, the championship he got was the ECW championship.
That is true. So we both took McIntyre on that one, and now it's time for the main event.
The hell was that?
I think it is. Still played it. It's without the words, but it's the greatest match of all time.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment we've been waiting for. Edge versus Randy Orton. It'll be okay. But the greatest match of all time.
Nowhere near. So. I don't think so. Like I said, because it's being advertised as such, and they've spent the last 2 weeks of promos,
and it's been filmed for probably 2 weeks.
Yeah, and it's been at least a week. I think they said they taped it after everything they tapped beginning of last week, and from what we're being told, expect this to be another half an hour plus main event, which is bad because their match at Mania drug on almost 40 minutes, and it could have easily gotten the same amount done in 20. It did not need to be as long as it was, and I have a feeling that this is not going to need to be as long as it is.
No. So who do you got in this one?
I am ready to look at this as an interesting twist on this kind of this kind of rivalry building, because we had the Wild Brawl to start with, and now we're getting a wrestling match. And the traditional way to do this is you amp it up the other way, where you have the wrestling match, and then maybe next you have the no disqualification match, and then you have the cage match as the final blow off, which means that there's also still room to let this go. So Edge got his win in the last man standing match at WrestleMania, had the triumphant return. Tonight, Randy Orton gets his win back.
You think Randy Orton wins it?
And at SummerSlam, this ends. And if it's in a big enough arena, this ends in the cell. Again, if I'm booking and I have access to a place to erect the Hell in the Cell, that's what they're doing at SummerSlam.
I like it, and I'm agreeing with you because I said Edge has already got his win, so we have picked the exact same card.
You know, part of me wants to look at this and go, this was the only possible deviation I was thinking, and I actually have, and I know you can't see it, but my first reaction was Edge, and you can see I scratched that out, and then went with Randy Orton on that after giving some more thought. So
yep, I've been debating on it, and I was like, you know what? They're going to give it to Edge. He's finally back. They're going to give him a couple wins in a row. No, he got his win against Orton. You know, just like what you said. It's going to be Orton's time on this one.
Pretty much. So again, we have the entire thing. So I don't need that shit. There's no point in tracking these now.
Yeah, we got a little rundown there.
The championship. Well, you printed it. I didn't. I don't have a printer.
Things.
I don't need to do that, boss. But we'll at least keep track of how well we did, whether we actually were decent enough at predictions. But the championship reign will continue. The reign of terror will go on throughout the early summer. Put your hand down. You didn't do anything. You lucked into my inability to pick women's matches more than anything else. You didn't win it as much as I lost it.
Well, we're going to see, what happens here in like 3 hours.
3 hours. We'll be back at this. Good Lord.
So stand by, wait for us, and we'll be back right here.
Yeah,
Same.
I'm gonna go stock the bar because I have a feeling I'm gonna need it.
I got a few. They're not as big drinks as you, but they're just Smirnoffs. I really can't drink that much of the medicine I'm on for my MS, so I got something I can have.
Yeah,
so we can make it. You think of an idea, we can make it a drinking game.
That's right. You have the MS.
I have the MS. Thanks, Fred.
Jerry does.
So I just can't really drink because I could draw really. No, I'm kidding.
We're just full of throwbacks tonight. So yeah, a little before 7 o'clock, we'll be right back here on Facebook, and that is an exclusive stream. If you are not following us on our Facebook page, you are not getting our live reactions to all of these pay-per-views. Thank God we get a Sunday off next week.
Yes, because we had 2 in a row now.
We've had 2 in a row and 3 of 4.
So you want to know where to follow us, where to find us on social media other than Facebook. If you're here right now watching us on Facebook,
this man no.
Make sure you go to thefinisherpodcast.com. It's right down there. You can see it. Thefinisherpodcast.com. There's also the links for the Facebook page. But if you go to thefinisherpodcast.com, thefinisherpodcast.com, I'll say it a few times fast there for you. Go there and you can find us everywhere. All of our streaming services, all of our social networking. You can have Alexa. Turn her off for a second. You can have Alexa take care of that for you. And she will pull us up just for you, and you can listen live every week. She'll let you know when we are going live. So we will see you guys in about 3 hours live right here on Facebook. Dan's laughing. We're out. You guys have a great day.
Here are your hosts, Jerry Pickering
Dan
screw that
Nawrocki.
up.